Yeah, hello Africans, hello Nigerians, hello people from Niger, from Ivory Coast, from Gambia, from everywhere in West Africa and in the whole of Africa. Yeah, I want to welcome you to this show today, but it's going to be a very, very short one. And I want to pass a message to all the Ecowas leaders and also the OAU, the Organization of African Unity. Why am I saying this? Uh, as we all know, Africa is in the edge of a total collapse. Total collapse in the sense that our leaders are not seeing the sign. They are not seeing the sign that is boldly written on the wall of Africa. Uh, you see, in Niger, the past few days, what has been going on there is completely unacceptable. But, but unacceptable in the form because we cannot be allowing people just seizing power because they are being instructed by foreign powers that is trying to control Africa, that are trying to regain the hold, the grip on Africa. My appeal directly go to the president of Nigeria, His Excellency Ahmed Tinubu, to please remove the option of a military intervention in Niger. Such action will lead to a total collapse of the West African region. Why am I saying this? Uh, the handwriting on the wall suggests 100% that this is not if things are not happening because they want to happen. Things are being provoked by foreign missionaries in Africa, in West Africa as a whole today. We can see how foreign missionaries and foreign intelligence are trying to destabilize the whole of Africa as a continent. Why are they doing this? Why are they making all these changes of government in Africa today? Why are they succeeding? Why are our people supporting them to be doing what they are doing now, right now? I can assure you, this process started very, very long ago. It's only we were just sleeping and we didn't react the way we are supposed to be reacting. Reacting in the sense that putting place things in places, putting things to confront all the situation we are having today. You know, the the foreign missionaries are trying to use the economic situation in our countries to be telling us that you still belongs to us. The colonial masters, the imperialisms will not just leave Africa and pack their load and go away without total destruction. And has been going on for a very long time. It's not just only the imperialism. We can see the handwriting of the Chinese people. We can see the handwriting of the Russians. No, we have foreign forces in Africa, which is even more than the, the military of the whole of Africa. We have people who have been sent into Africa as we are talking right now to destabilize Africa as a whole, to destabilize Africa, to make sure Africa doesn't come to rest. Why are they doing this? African is shifting from the west to the east. And this is a big opportunity for the East, for the Russians, for the Chinese and others to also benefit from Africa. Because the truth is Africa is still a slave to all these countries, whether it is Russia or it is whatever you call it, China or whatsoever you call it. We are still slaves. We are still their slaves. Why am I saying this? People may say, "Oh, I'm not a slave. I'm not a slave." You are still their slaves, and this is the reality of the whole issue. You see, Russia is just one country. Africa has about 54 continents, countries, or even more than a whole leaders. The whole leaders of Africa went just to one country to go and be negotiating for food. That's a total disgrace. In all parts of Africa today, whether it's in West Africa, East Africa, South Africa, or everywhere you go, you see conflicts in Africa. These leaders have not find it important or possible to go to this region to negotiate with these people, to make sure we have peace in Africa, because peace and security is the basic commodity of having an economic improvement in any country. If you don't have peace, if you don't have security and your own education, then cultural and everything, then you remain slaves. Why I'm saying this, Africa remain a slave, we have the foreign religion that have been imposed on Africans, the Christianity, the Islam. Then we come to the issue of language. We have the English language, then we have the French language, then we have the Portuguese language, then we have the Arabic language also that is trending in Africa. My question is, why do we forget our own language if you are not a slave to anybody? Even though you banned these languages in our schools and as a national language, it will not help issue. The issue is, how do we form our own languages? Bringing back our own languages, even though it's different. Every region can speak its language. There's no problem about that. You can study your own language in the schools. I believe Africa will start understanding themselves if we come to this level. Come to this level to explain to people that Africa was once a great continent. I'm appealing to the president of Ecowas, the president of the OAU, Organization of African Unity, and to all well-meaning Africans to make sure that there should not be a military intervention in Niger. If that happens, the destabilization of all the West African region, including Nigeria, Ghana, and every one of them, is going to affect every one of us, because things are already put in place to do that. The French, the British, they will not leave Africa just like that and go. The Russians will not leave Africa like that and just go without destabilizing Africa, without making Africa to be a beggar again. The Chinese will likewise not will do the same. Really, Africa has no friend. Anybody that says is an Africa friend, just know is try to enjoy Africa and put us in a situation that we will remain under them. You see, in the past 20 years, the numbers of military forces, I mean foreign military forces in Africa, has increased almost 3 times or 4 times. Why are they increasing all these things? Because Africa has always been a battleground for all these countries. If it is Russia, even though it's West and others. You see, when people are saying Russia give us arms and funds to fight against the imperialism. I understand. But don't forget, Russia wasn't doing this for free. Russia was also doing this for their own personal gain, for their own personal purpose. Because Russia was also trying to stop the Westerners from gaining more power in Africa. They didn't do that because they love you. They didn't do that because they want to support you. Otherwise, Russia would have not closed its eyes for more than 300 years that we were subdued and enslaved, or the Chinese wouldn't have allowed that to happen if they love us. We know what has been going on in the whole world today, wherever a black man is living. In the early stage of the Russian Federation, there were black people there. Can anybody tell me where those black people are today? Where they are remaining? There's no single black person in Russia again. Everything is gone. Who were native, everything is gone. Likewise, the Chinese, they were black people there, but today you can't find black people in China. I mean the indigenous people, the black people. Why is it that way? If they love us so much, why is it that way that those people are being erased from the surface of this earth? Anywhere you go today, if you go to Haiti, if you go to in the oceans where our people reside, you see the hatred that the people treat towards our people. Now we have just one chance to leave this captivity. Let me put it way, because we are still under their capture. Something like the British colonies, like Nigeria, like Ghana, and all these countries that was colonized by the British. We can see the art of and manner we are being treated. We are being treated, we are not even equal. The so-called Commonwealth just represent the colony of the British, the property of the British. There's no difference. When people are saying today they are members of the Commonwealth, I refuse to say I'm a member of Commonwealth. I don't need that. I'm not a slave to anybody. The British should keep their Commonwealth, and Nigeria should try as much as possible to remove themselves from the Commonwealth because we are no longer slaves to British. The destabilization of Africa, the West Africa region, has just begun in the middle right now. Because I have to count in Ivory Coast, Mali, Chad, Niger, Gambia, Sierra Leone, Liberia, Guinea, Guinea-Bissau, Central African Republic, Sudan, South Sudan, Cameroon, Ghana, Togo. Just can't, endless. Can you tell me any of this land in Africa, any of this country in Africa where there's peace? Why is there no peace in these places? The artificial overthrow of government. Because what just happened in Niger suggests that the Russian is behind this coup. The Russian is behind this coup, and now we are going to share blood because we are trying to support the elected and legitimate president. France is pushing the African nations to do something against this because of their own interest, not because of the African interest. Russia is doing the same, not just because they love Africa, because they are protecting their own interest. Their own interest is the economic interest, and also to become one of the superpower in the world. Because Russia is losing ground. They are losing ground to the Chinese, they are losing ground to the Indians, and they are losing ground to the Americans and the NATO. So they have to compensate it in Africa. Likewise, the NATO, the French, and others, they are also losing ground in Africa. They will use Africa to compensate each other. And our leaders need to wake up from all this. They need to wake up and in a way that defend Africa will remain in every angle peaceful, because this is the only way we can survive this. Africa needs to start feeding himself, because when we continue to beg for food, beg for money, beg for social amenities, I don't think anybody will respect us. I don't think anybody will allow us to be ourselves when we continue to do that. My talking here today may feel for you unconcerned. You feel you are living in Europe and you have a resident permit in Europe. I can tell you this resident permit is useless in a way that when the issue occurs tomorrow, that you who has a residence permit, you who has the passport here, will be rejected. They are going to start sending every one of you back home, because here is not our home. You see, in Russia, before the starting of Ukraine, our people were being chased in the street. Many of them were killed in Russia, to say the fact. Black people were used as scapegoats in Russia before. Likewise, in Europe, in all these countries you see today that are not trying to come back to Africa to be our friend, to do this and that. If they so love Africa, where have they been in the past 500 years? If they so love the black people, as they call us, where have they been the past 500 years? And now, why is everybody so interested in Africa? Destabilizing Africa, doing everything possible that we remain under them. The Africa need to acquire their independence through their economic self-sufficiency. When you can provide anything for the table for your family, and your neighbors can enjoy it the same way you enjoy, I don't think we will be having all this problem we're having today. And to make it clear, the leaders we are having today, most of them are either Russian agents or they are the American agent, CIA agent, or the European agent, or the Russia agent, the FSB, that is really controlling Africa. Most of these leaders, you just see the well respected leaders you see today. I'm saying this because of the narrative they are giving themselves. You just listen carefully and watch these people when they are talking, like somebody like Soveni from Uganda. When he's talking, listen very carefully, then you will understand. Then you will understand so many of them. Even Tunubu, I'm not so sure. There's something there that is going on. And we should be very, very careful when we do things. Any military intervention in Niger will result to a catastrophe that every African will suffer for in the next coming 40, 50 years. The problem is not just the overthrow. The problem is, how do we manage this situation? How do we come out of this situation without more bloodshed? African has suffered a lot. We don't need more bloodshed in the continent of Africa. It's just too much. The Democratic Republic of Congo needs to be free. Central African Republic needs to be free. South Sudan needs to be free. Sudan needs to be free. Mali needs to be free. Niger needs to be free. Chad needs to be free. Senegal, Zambia, Zimbabwe, Namibia. Count as many you can. There's no African country that is really free. Libya. You see, when I hear all this, my heart will be bleeding, because a real African man, his heart will bleed when he hear this. But you see, our leaders are not even concerned about that. They are concerned about how they are going to have access to grain in Russia and Ukraine. Russia now has been fighting war for more than 1.5 years now. And likewise, Ukraine, they can still export their grain. They can still feed their people without the help of the UN. While African countries, African leaders, doesn't have any plan on how to feed their people, on how to make effort even to do that. We cannot see that. The only effort they are making is how to travel to Russia, how to travel to Ukraine to buy to buy. You see, how will somebody respect you? How will somebody respect you? Why do you want anybody to respect you? And those of you, the school plotters in Africa, and most of the youth, you see, people will just bring a news to the social media to say this African leader have stolen so and so billions of dollars in your country, and they bring it to Swiss, to America, to Europe, to bank, or to Saudi Arabia, or to United Arab Emirates to hide. But when you are demanding for this evidence, to provide evidence of this allegation, you hardly see all this evidence. And once all this is over, when any African country is demanding for the return of this fund, we don't see any cent. That is to tell you there's something wrong in that system. Our people, these people used all the system to brainwash our people, to fight against ourselves. In the case of Abacha, I don't know if everybody remember what happened. Abacha was accused of stealing so huge amount of money hidden in Swiss, America, and all that. Only fraction of that money was released back to Nigeria. Where is the remaining one today? Where is the remaining one? Likewise, other leaders were also accused because the Westerners they have been using this method to destabilize Africa, and they will continue to be doing that. Africa is feeding the world, not because Africa want to be feeding the world, but they are using our brain against us. And this time around, we have to use our brain to succeed against all these brainwashers. So my once again, my appeal to the ECOWAS, to the OAU, and to all the regional leaders in Africa, please don't use military intervention in Niger because the situation is tense enough. It's tense enough because immediately you step your foot in that country, you are declaring war against that country. And the citizens of that country, they will be determined to defend their country, whether you like it or not, whether they are your friend or not your friend. Nobody will like anybody to burst into his house. And this is going to happen when we do that. So please share this video, allow all these messages to go down in every social media to make sure this message got to the Nigerian president, to the Ghanaian president, to the Chad president, to all the president of this African Union to make sure there's no more bloodshed in Nigeria because we have seen enough more bloodshed in Africa. So thank you very much, and I say have a great Sunday and a great week ahead. Thank you, and God bless you all. Bye bye.